American, Caribbean, and Iberian Studies. And I see a lot of new faces, so I'm always happy to see new folks. And we do have a sign-in sheet back there on the clipboard if you'd like to sign up for our listserv if you're not already on that. We also are co-sponsoring an event in a couple of weeks with the Union Theater. It's a travel series on Cuba. There's going to be a buffet dinner and a film about Cuba, so that might be of interest to some of you guys. We do serve lunch every week. They're down a driver at Jimmy John's, so the sandwiches and chips will be here shortly, so lunch is coming in a couple minutes. So thank you so much for coming, and yeah.
When and where is the Cuba event?
There's actually little handouts there, but it's the 14th and the 15th, and we've got more if you guys would like, if we need a few more. Yeah, I can grab some more in the office, or Monica will grab a couple more in the office. 14th and 15th, 2 nights in a row at the Union Theater. So.
But it's the same film.
It's the exact same event, just 2 days in a row. So I think Alberto Vargas, our Associate Director, is going to introduce our speaker today. So thanks so much.
All right, yeah, thank you, Sarah, and welcome everybody to our first session of the semester. And it's just my pleasure to introduce Renelson Sampaio. He's a professor in graduate programs in Salvador, Bahia, in SENAI-CIMATEC.
Yeah, that's correct.
And Professor Sampaio is a visiting scholar this semester and doing a postdoc here in the sociology department. So he's going to talk to us about the role of the state on innovation policies. Very timely topic. So thank you very much for being here.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank you, Professor Vargas, for this kind of invitation. I thank you, all of you, to come over despite this weather. Last night, by the end of the afternoon, they were concerned if you bid this event or not. Thanks heaven, we could meet. I acknowledge and thank the presence of Professor Gay Seidman. And so, where is Sarah? Oh, yeah, you are there. No. You asked me to talk a little bit about myself. This is not the kind of thing I'm used to. I'd like to anyway. I will be short because I don't think it's too much importance. The only thing, yes, it might be of interest of some of you at least, is my background. I graduated, I was graduating in physics. Then I did a special program during 2 years on mathematics, physics. And then I decided to drop that and turn completely in the other direction. And I start to ask questions about science and society. And here I am. So because I made a single question, why some regions in Brazil we could witness so to speak, a very good development of science and technology, and other regions are not. Only Brazil. Why was that so? Because I made that question, then I start to go into some social issues, philosophy of science, epistemology, then economics, and then I went to Sussex and I did my PhD in the economics of innovation at SPRU, which is a well-known institution. I would say that the majority of the main so-called neo-Schumpeterian economists and the neo-Schumpeterian approach came from there. And as I had to change from the area, I was from the so-called hard science, which is it's a joke from the physicists, called social science, softer science, and the physics, the hard science. It's just, don't believe in that. Anyway, then they asked me to do a master degree in history and social studies of science, which I did. Was very good, very important for me, and that's all. When I went back, there is one thing it might interest you. When I went back to Brazil, I worked for 1 year. That was in 1981. I worked 1 year in the Special Secretary for Technology, Industrial Technology, which was, at that time, ahead of the Brazilian alcohol program. 1981 was the start. So they asked me to follow 2 research programs that was being set up by the Brazilian government as a result of a request of a World Bank to finance the Brazilian alcohol program. One was in São Paulo, the USP, University of São Paulo. The other one was in Minas Gerais, in the Institute of Technology of Minas Gerais. And both of them was precisely looking at the impacts of the alcohol program. So I think I know a little bit from there on, and I keep following some issues. So from there I went to the CNPq, which is equivalent, more or less equivalent to National Science Foundation. I worked there for 4 years, and then when the Ministry of Science and Technology was set up in 1986, I was invited. I was part of the technical bureaucratic administration in the ministry. I stayed there for 3 years, 2 years. And then after that, I went out. I get off the government for many reasons. Besides our discussion here, mainly I'm not agree with some strategic decisions, change the minister, a lot of things. Those normal life.
Alcohol was about automobiles, not
Yeah.
about drinking.
No, certainly not.
Yeah.
No. Yes. Remember, at that time, by the end of the 70s, we were suffering the first oil crisis. And for Brazil, that was just awful. I wouldn't get into this subject, otherwise I would did change here. Anyhow, so I spent a little bit in the private sector, was another good experience. And after all this kind of random way in my life, I decided that it was time to get back in my original track, which is in the academic life. I enjoy very much being in class, to exchange ideas, this is the sort of thing I look after and give a good deal of attention. For me, it's quite important. So that's another reason why I thank you very much for this conversation, because I was, I would say, almost silent. I wouldn't say alone, that would be not true, but away from my class, from this. So I like to talk. Forgive me if I talk too much. So this is what I thought we could talk here. I don't know if I'll be able to follow all these issues, but I will try. So for the introduction, what is the question that I would like to explore here? What are the conditions under which it would be possible for a latecomer economy to have a self-sustaining process of development? That's one big issue. Second, how would it be possible to build the necessary knowledge infrastructure? Third, how to develop an endogenous scientific and technological capabilities? Of course, all these questions are related to one specific country. Okay, you could narrow down for a region, but anyway. And finally, how to promote and to set up an innovative behavior within the economic system, fostering entrepreneurship culture. Those who are familiar with some of those issues know that I must be crazy to list all this here and try to say something about it. Yes, I am a little bit. But I just would like to make a large framework in which I would like to address. If I succeed, that's another question. However, I'd like to stress something. The first question, which I just underlined, self-sustaining, is more a kind of issue that should be approached as a theoretic kind of analysis. Has to do with theoretic issues, theoretic foundations in which you could talk about this. Because as you can see here, first you have a latecomer economy. What does it mean, really? And also, what does it mean, process of development of what? I mean, you could raise a series of questions, but I stress only the self-sustaining because in itself is already very wide, very complex. And as I said, for my opinion, this kind of question should be approached through theoretical analysis before anything else. Somehow, I'm going to do part of this in another lecture that I have been invited by Professor Gay Seidman. It will be the February the 18th. I will talk a little bit about questions concerned with this. And there will be another lecture by STS group on the March 10th. There I would be completely focused on proposal modeling that I'm trying to address this question. And this, by the way, would be or is the program, the project, postdoctoral project research I'm doing here. Okay. The other three questions, I stress how in all those three questions, because this is much more concerned, in my view at least, that what I try to, and that was I'm going to pursue in our presentation here, policies. Concern more policies. So having said that, this is what we will be focused here, these three questions. So I list another 4 items for the discussion. I'm not going, don't worry, to go into details here, because if you would like to discuss the so-called science push model, we'll be talking quite a while. The same for historical background. And then what I'm going to do is just actually to stress something and highlight some points, because what I meant to do is discuss here what's happened in Brazil regarding agribusiness and the aircraft industry. Why those events did take place. And this is connected with the other three questions I have already present to you. So, very briefly, quickly, please don't ask too much questions, otherwise we will be missing our focus here. But science push model is considered, it is a linear model of development. It emerged mainly after the Second World War. Bush, I can't remember his first name, was a professor who was invited by Roosevelt at that, when he was still already still alive, and to advise the executive in question related to science and technology. Remember, Second World War is a very mark in the history, because from there on, the relationship of the so-called science and technological activities within the country and in its relations, in their relations with the government of the state, state in the sense of sociological, political, social, political contest, changed completely. Is what has been called as big science, the beginning of so-called big science. Because for the first time, we have an incredible event, was for all standards, including tragic, was the Manhattan Project, which turned out the production of the first atomic bomb. This is very interesting to explore how this, and somehow you'll be connected with the approach I'm going to give by the end to point out, try to explain the reasons of the success of Embraer, which is the Brazilian aircraft manufacturing, and the agro-business sector. So you have a whole sector and one particular firm, okay? So this is so-called science push model. The idea is very naive. I mean, if you have a good science, then you have a R&D, good engineering, technology, then manufacturing, industrialization, development, everybody will be happy. More or less it is that. UNESCO, by the way, when it was set up after the Second World War, was for decades promoting this model throughout the other underdeveloping countries. Oh, you would like to be developed? It's quite simple, the formula. Just have a good science, do R&D, engineering, develop technology, manufacturing, then you have industrialization, that's it. Voila, development. That's the kind of thing. Very quickly, some phases of Brazilian economic development periods from 1950 up to 2009.